As men, generally, we speak to each other about sports, sex, music, movies, maybe politics, and that's it, I said. Sitting behind an enormous mixing board full of equalizer knobs and levels, he leaned back thoughtfully. I can't even answer that, he admitted. With all the good things my father has taught me, this is one of the things he taught me that he shouldn't have, that I can't really confide to him in an emotional way, you know? My brothers and I were taught not to really show those types of feelings as men, especially toward another man, because then you're vulnerable. It's crazy. Most men will go to a woman. 3 months back, Kendrick had just become engaged to Whitney Alford, his Centennial High School sweetheart. It's really about trust issues, too, he continued. I still need to figure that out. Top Dog Entertainment General Manager Robert Reyes, known within the camp as Ret One, transported me from the Hollywood photography studio to the Santa Monica recording studio, caravanning close behind Kendrick. The Uber gods were responsible for my trip back to the Montrose Hotel in West Hollywood. Right before thumbing in my coordinates on the rideshare app, we hit a groove about South Africa. In early February 2014, he'd visited Johannesburg, Cape Town, and Durban for a trio of concerts, his first time on the continent. The trip influenced some of the rhythms and thematic breadth of To Pimp a Butterfly, as well as the Grammy-nominated soundtrack he'd later curate for Black Panther, the top-grossing film of 2018. The album closer, Mortal Man, referenced his visit to Robben Island and what he'd seen in the prison cell of the late Nelson Mandela. It was just an overwhelming feeling to me, like we were really home, he told me. That's why I called one of the tracks on the new album Mama, which symbolizes the motherland. When we watch certain commercials, we're shown the bad parts of Africa. That makes people born in the States feel like they shouldn't go there. Africa does have poverty-stricken areas, and I've seen that. But at the same time, we were never told that it's also one of the most beautiful places on earth, the land and the people. I thought about how much we stress about in America while those kids are enjoying life with no material possessions. Making parallels with my upbringing in the urban blighted Bronx during the 1970s and 80s with Kendrick's native Compton in the 1980s and 90s, I explain how living abroad expanded my sense of self. My personal journey took me to France, relocating to Paris for 7 years. Asking where would you go, his response was immediate. Where would I settle? If I left the States, I would go to Cape Town. Seriously. To Pimp a Butterfly marked a genuinely artistic left turn, a creative gamble the young MC won hands down. With 2012's more mainstream, Grammy Award-winning Good Kid, Mad City, #1 on Billboard's album chart, and its catchy singles, no one expected a follow-up like To Pimp a Butterfly. The album's You dug deeper lyrically than anywhere near necessary to maintain his position as the torchbearer of West Coast hip-hop, spewing self-critical barbs straight from his id that revealed bouts of depression and poetic self-doubt. For Free, Interlude, produced by noted saxophonist Terrace Martin, featured bebop improvisation that sounded like an outtake from jazz legend Max Roach's 1971 album We Insist. Martin had his hands in 5 songs on Kendrick's 16-track album, joined by young lions like Thundercat, Kamasi Washington, Robert Glasper, and Flying Lotus. I already knew that, growing up, his parents had mainly exposed him to the soul of Marvin Gaye and the Isley Brothers, the street reportage of Tupac Shakur and NWA. Where'd the jazz come from? One of the producers was telling me I was already a jazz musician based on my cadence and how I put songs together, he answered. I was doing it without even knowing the history of jazz or studying those artists for years. When I asked him about being an old soul at 27, he agreed. I think it's just the blood of my ancestors. I've always been drawn to older people. I was always at the house parties, always in the older crowds, always around my uncles and my parents. I even carried myself a little differently around the kids I played with. When I was probably 9 years old, I played football with kids that were around 16. He was also the rare tweener on his block watching Asian action movies from the 1970s, like Master of the Flying Guillotine and 5 Deadly Venoms, and the area's raunchy blaxploitation films by comedian Dolomite. A moratorium on discussing Kendrick Lamar's verse on the Big Sean single Control was baked into the interview ground rules handed down from Top Dog Entertainment president Dave Free even before I'd flown in from New York City. By then, he was tired of talking about his instantly infamous 3-minute harangue from 2013, targeting 11 different rappers, including Big Sean himself. I'm usually homeboys with the same niggas I'm rhyming with.